Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret, and today on today's Fresh Take, I am talking to Anna Fader and Amelia Eigerman. They are a mother-daughter team since 2007 when Anna started the website Mommy Poppins. Their family has traveled extensively to discover the best destinations and activities for families and learned how to turn any day into an adventure. Anna and Mommy Poppins are recognized as leading authorities on family activities and travel, cited in publications including the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Forbes, among many others. Welcome, Anna and Amelia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe you are our first mother-daughter team. Tell us a little bit about how you came to work together on this book.
I think, in all honesty, I was just like, well, I actually need Amelia to help me on this because I didn't think I could do it on my own. And I couldn't think of a better partner for it since we have traveled together all the time and have kind of, Amelia's been so integral to Mommy Poppins and understands inherently what we're trying to do. So Amelia really was the ideal partner.
Yeah, I started writing for Mommy Poppins. The first article I wrote, I believe I was in 5th grade, and I wrote a book report of books that I recommended for other elementary schoolers. And so that's sort of where our writing collaboration began. And it was a delight writing a book together. It really was a smooth process.
Anna describes you, Amelia, as you were the chief fun tester for all things Mommy Poppins. So talk a little bit about that experience.
So I would say it's sort of the thesis of our family is just always finding something to do and ideally the best thing to do. Every time we were going out, even if it was just on a walk or to the park, we were always trying to find, well, let's find a new park to go to. Let's find the best place to walk. If we're going out for sandwiches, let's try the 3 coolest sandwich spots and taste test and compare and figure out which one is best. It's turning every day into sort of an activity and really finding the most fun way to do things. And that was true when we were traveling. But honestly, for me, primarily, it was true at home. That was just every weekend, every after school. That's how we tried to do it.
And we all owe you a debt of gratitude because as I think everyone in our audience is a user of Mommy Poppins and has that experience of taking family adventures and exploring wherever we happen to go. Anna, talk a little bit about how you founded Mommy Poppins, where you got the idea, because it's been such a useful resource.
Well, it was really an evolution and very organic. Mommy Poppins definitely wasn't like a tech startup. It was a hobby I started for myself, really just as a creative outlet, and evolved. It started just me writing. And then I was doing it on top of my full-time job and raising the kids. After about 3 months, I kind of stepped back and took a break. I think we actually went on a family vacation. And I came back with a more concrete idea of what I wanted to do, which was to treat, at that time, just New York City as a classroom and really curate the city for families. I grew up in the city. We never had any money, but we did amazing things. And I felt like at the time there was a real push toward the consumerification of parenting and kids' activities.
Right. You can pay to have a good time somehow.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can pay to have a good time, and there's fancy kids clubs and there's fancy strollers and all of that stuff. And I was like, you guys are in New York City. That's not what's cool about living in New York. What's amazing about parenting in New York is your kids can take free classes at world-class museums, and all of these amazing things are available for you. And so I really wanted to share the way that I was raised, because a lot of parents didn't grow up in the place where they live, and they don't know really what it's like to be a kid or raise a family in that city. So it started in New York with that perspective, and then it really grew organically. It's a little bizarre when I think back on it, but it really started because another mother came to me and was like, oh, can I write for you? And I was like, oh, that never occurred to me, and then she was like, we should have an event calendar. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds like a lot of work, but if you want to do that, okay. And then I had somebody else who was like, oh, why don't we have this in Long Island? Why don't we have it in New Jersey? Why don't we have it in Houston? And that's really how we grew, very just organically, kind of by demand, people liking what we were doing and wanting more of it or wanting to participate in it.
So many of the authors and mom entrepreneurs who we talk to say that their origin story is, I needed this and it didn't exist, so I'm the person who created it. And that seems like a familiar story. Like, hey, it would be great to have this. I guess I'm the one. I guess I'm doing it. So this book focuses very much on travel for kids. And let's start with traveling with kids. And we've done episodes about traveling, talked a lot about traveling. What is it that scares people about traveling with kids?
I think the logistics feel very overwhelming. Even when you're traveling around your own city, you're probably taking a stroller and you're taking a bag of stuff. And I think that the logistics, like how do you get all of that onto an airplane and then traveling around a different city, that can all be overwhelming. Obviously, I think cost is very intimidating to people as well. Once you start to have to buy airplane tickets, I think that that is a big roadblock, especially as your family grows beyond maybe one kid. That gets very, very expensive quickly. What do you think, Amelia?
Something I thought a lot about when I was writing this book was researching sort of from the kid's perspective, what's stressful and unpleasant as a kid traveling.
And I will say this book is very much oriented towards the child. It's not an advice book for parents. It's like a workbook for the child on how to kind of get excited about travel. So that's a really good perspective.
And I wanted to really include prompts that left room for both the positive and negative sides of traveling as a child. I remember it's anxious. It's a lot of transitions. It can be hard. So I tried to research into what parents found that their kids were feeling on these trips, what psychologists recommended doing at times of big transition, and incorporate that into the prompts and activities within the book. I also gave a couple shout outs to the parents. I have an activity in there that's all about how to get your sillies out before you get on an airplane. So really just jumping jacks in the airport, trying to make flying a little less exhausting with children, things like that.
I want to double click on the idea of good and bad experiences, because one of the things we talk a lot about is that travel, especially like, let's use, for example, the big theme park vacation that you've saved up for maybe several years for, tends to be an exercise in expectation management, that we forget that it's not going to go perfectly. And that sometimes I was recently at a theme park and you do see a lot of families in conflict. You know, we spent a lot of money to be here and now you just want to play with this blade of grass, but we spent the money so you could meet the mouse or whoever it happens to be. Talk a little bit about the prompts in the book that sort of acknowledge that there may be hard parts of travel, because I do think that can be a tragic flaw in parents when we travel with our kids.
I think we tried to never have any prompts that couldn't be answered by a kid who was having the most miserable time. So in general, there's room for, how did you feel about this? Well, I hated it. There's lots of room for rating your experiences on a scale that goes all the way from not great to great. And then there's also room to focus on the blade of grass. If that's what you're enjoying and that's what's really rocking you on this vacation, then there's room to focus on like, what was your favorite part of this trip? And it doesn't have to be any one specific thing. And I think that's something that's great about the structure of this book is that it is very open. We tried to be mindful of all the different types of vacation that could exist. And a lot of these sections can happen just on a staycation. We have a whole section about nature, and that doesn't have to be going to every national park one summer. That can just be, hey, we spent some time in the backyard, and you should be able to take part in this book no matter what the context is. And I think that also leaves room for, if you're not, as a child, not engaged with the actual vacation you're on, there's room for you to focus on the things that are engaging to you.
I like that it starts before the vacation because we took our kids for the first time ever to London and Paris. We saved for a long time. This was going to be their first overseas. We got their passports. They were tweens at the time. And someone did give me this advice of like, let them find what's interesting to them in the city. So of course we dragged them to the Mona Lisa and there's Big Ben and you've got to check all these things off. But at some point we were taking the tourist bus around and there was a Stranger Things pop-up store on the Champs-Elysees. So like the last thing on it was an hour line to get in. And that advice came to my head. And we had some kids from town who we'd met up with, 7 kids, freaking out. This is where we want to go. And of course, we're thinking, we didn't come to Paris to go to the Stranger Things store, but we got off the bus and in we went. And when they wrote about the trip, it was their favorite memory. And I have to say, I struggled with it as a parent. I was like, I took you to Paris and you're talking about the t-shirt you bought. But I think that letting kids manage their expectations and allowing and listening to them about what the trip can be is a struggle for parents. So I like that that idea is there. And you use the faces to show the emotions you might be having. And you kind of allow the kid to be bored at the Mona Lisa if they need to be and excited at the Stranger Things store. Is that right?
It's very open form, and unlike Mommy Poppins, which is really a lot about specific destinations, there's nothing in the book that has to be a specific destination. It can really be done anywhere. And we tried to be mindful, as Amelia said, about different types of vacations, but different types of families, and really open and free form for anybody to use it the way that they want. The amazing thing about travel is that you're learning life skills in real time. And so you're learning flexibility, you're learning disappointment, you're learning how to sit in a restaurant, how to entertain yourself while waiting in an hour-long line. And the book is filled with ideas to help teach these skills to kids in a fun way. And those are lifelong things that they take with them, whether they're at a doctor's office the next time that they have to wait or, whatever. One of the goals of the book is to teach kids these skills in a fun way. These travel skills make them better travelers, but give them those lifelong skills that they get from traveling.
Let's take a break. I want to come back and talk a little bit more about those travel to lifelong skills.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
So we were talking before the break about this idea of skills that you build traveling. And I think that we mistakenly approach travel sometimes as a checklist. There's an old joke about the 10-minute Louvre where you go from the Winged Victory to the Mona Lisa, you get in, get out, and like Eiffel Tower, check. And that your travel is really just to put these experiences together, get your kind of passport checklist stamped and come home. But you capture in the book very well that that's not really what travel is about. So talk a little bit more about that.
So I mean, travel can be about so many things because you're getting exposure to things that are outside of your comfort zone, spending family time together, building that relationship. I think I love the story that you said about you having to adjust your expectations to meet your kids, right? That's a growing moment for you as well. And your kind of relationship with your children to meet them where they are, right? So it's incredible for this family engagement because we're all outside of our comfort zone and we're all having to learn how to be flexible and work together as a family. So I think there's just the things that you learn on travel. And that's like not even talking about we went to a new place and saw new things we've never seen before.
Right.
And had
met different kinds of people, ate different kinds of food.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's why the book is broken up. There's things about trying new foods. There's things about guiding kids through those experiences and processing those emotions and getting to rate it so they can decide whether it was good or bad.
Because I think travel becomes sometimes like a wedding. It's this thing that is expensive and it takes over. The central experience, which is two people getting married, gets lost to like the flowers don't match the bridesmaid's dress. And travel can have the same sort of experience of like, oh, we got the guidebooks and we're talking about this. And I love that the book, and we talked a little bit about this in the first section, that it gives kids a voice in travel. It's not necessarily that your child has to choose the destination or that your child gets to run the whole vacation. But Amelia, talk about the role of having a kid make like a bucket list, for example.
Yeah. So that's sort of one of the themes of the book is, what are you excited about? Make your own bucket list of things that you'd like to do when traveling. One of my favorite prompts actually is, we call it 5 things to do in the city, but that's kind of a trap of a title. It's having the kid or the reader figure out what their little itinerary is when visiting a city. And again, this could be done in your own city or your own town too. And I just love that it sort of draws the kid into figuring out, hey, I'd like to go eat at this restaurant. And how do I figure out what a restaurant that I'd like to go eat at is? And it could be somewhere they've been before. It could be something totally new and different. It could be McDonald's. If that's what they want to do, that's awesome. And then sort of interrogates a little bit, why is that the thing that you want to do? So just really trying to draw out and then give those, again, skills of, okay, well, now I have sort of an idea. Hey, if I'm planning my own first vacation or I'm going on spring break with my college friends, I'm going to try and find a restaurant that we want to go to. I'm going to try and find an attraction. I'm going to try and find a museum, and starting to lay the bones. And as a youngish person who's starting to do these things on my own, it's very still stressful to try and figure out how to have these adult skills. Traveling really is a skill that you need to learn and figure out how to do. And I'm lucky to have had a good role model for that skill, but we're trying to sort of give a little bit of that through the book as well.
I think that's really important that the skill goes. We recently got stuck on a plane trip overnight in a city we didn't know. And because I had traveled a lot as a kid, I had a little bit of that orientation of like, let's find the most fun thing that this town has. And we'll spend the day, and we spent it at this crazy zoo where you were allowed to walk in and pet the animals. And it was Texas. They do things differently down there. But I think that the orientation, Anna, even as you were saying, waiting at the doctor's office, like, well, we have to go to the dentist, but maybe there's a place nearby that's exciting. It gives you an orientation to say, let me start the question at what's fun about this, or what would I find exciting about this?
And that's really the whole premise of our site, Mommy Poppins, is to turn every day into an adventure, right? And that is what we tried to carry through into the book of it's about taking an adventurous attitude, whether you're going to grandma's house or you're going to Paris. Address it with adventure.
Yeah. And I think that adventure, it really clarified for me, I think, especially those starting questions, that the kid needs buy-in to that adventure. That if you just kind of create the adventure and they're just a passenger for the adventure, that's a very different experience than saying, hey, what animals do you think we might see while we're there? Or what are the interests that you have? And allowing them to be a little bit more in the driver's seat.
Exactly. I think it's a trap for both the parents and the kids, actually, that we all fall into and is so hard to break. It's the parent gets frustrated because they're doing all the planning and it's so stressful to do all the planning. And the kid is frustrated because they're just being dragged along to things that they had no say in. And so again, like, we're very deliberately trying to engage the child in the process. One of my favorite activities in the book is basically a scavenger hunt when you're leaving a hotel to get the kid to participate in making sure nothing gets left behind. Because that's one of the most stressful moments of travel, right? You're checking out of a hotel. You need to make sure you've got all of the kids, you've got all of their stuff, you left the tip. I mean, a million things you're trying to do at once. And the kids are doing their own thing and that's distracting you. But if they're participating in the work of it as a fun way and a game to help, then that is like you're halfway there, right?
Let's talk a little bit about ages and stages. So we have people listening who have infants, 2-year-olds, kids under 5. How does travel change, and how is the book useful to kids at different ages and stages? Because obviously taking a 16-year-old somewhere is very different than taking a 2-year-old somewhere. Amelia, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I think the book definitely has its target audience. It is sort of for slightly elementary school age children, I would say. I think 6 to 11. But I think that it is that laying that groundwork for those older kids to then see how they would like to be engaged in travel. And then I also think for younger kids, there is something there. I have actually a colleague who has a newborn and she's taking the book with her on vacation, and she and her husband are filling it out together, both as the memento, because it does have a memory book aspect to it. And, you know, as a fun activity for them, just the two of them. So I think there's something there for that. I think when I think about how age impacts travel, I think a lot about the idea of feeling like you're just getting pulled along on this trip. And that feels really nice when you're younger in some ways. It feels great to just have everything taken care of for you and you just show up and there's amazing things to do. But it also can feel frustrating or stressful. And I like to say that we kind of have a third author for the book, which is my little brother. He's our little grumpy traveler. He would always stomp his little feet as we traveled growing up. And I tried to think about him when we were writing the activities of how would someone who is choosing to be frustrated about this trip because he's not getting full agency and he just loves to choose what he wants to do all the time and he's not having his full agency, how would he interact with traveling and how can we sort of make an outlet for him?
I love that because I think it's very true that different kids have different experiences of traveling. And My mother used to joke that she could have just gotten me takein food because the only thing I remember, she'll be like, do you remember when we went there? Oh, it was that beautiful castle. I'm like, no, nothing. Got nothing. I don't remember it at all. And she's like, they had the bread with the hot chocolate. I'm like, oh, I love that place. She's like, you only remembered the food. And my brother was very much kind of, even as like a young Sheldon, like an intellectual, and he could spend 7 hours in a museum and be like, do you realize that the Greeks? I'm like, I don't care about the Greeks. There were 4 of us. And it does get challenging to travel with people with different needs. And so I think like that's where we get back to letting kids have some say in and have some choices that kind of everybody gets a day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or half a day. I mean, one of my strategies was always like, do the thing the kids won't like in the morning and then find a swimming hole or something like that in the afternoon. So it's like they have that to look forward. They know if they get through the museum, they get to do what they're going to want to do in the afternoon. And that works pretty well, or it did for our family.
I am talking to the authors of the Mommy Poppins Travel Journal, and we'll be right back.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
So in terms of traveling with my own kids, what about reluctant travelers? I have a very reluctant traveler. And Amelia, you were just talking about your brother. And I think that kids have very different set points when they travel. And some of that is anxiety. Some of it is familiarity. Kids on the spectrum may have more trouble with like new foods and new beds, and they're not maybe as lit up by new experiences as some other kids. So how do you address that in the book, and how do we sort of make it an experience that works for everybody in the family?
I think the whole first adventure of the book is really set up for those readers. That section is our sort of like getting ready to go, our pre-adventure. And that is really all about trying to set expectations, have the child understand this is what we're going to do. There's an activity, I believe, that's where are you going to be tomorrow morning when you wake up? Where are you going to be tomorrow morning at lunch? And where are you going to be tomorrow evening when you go to bed?
So smart and so useful for kids who have anxiety around, they don't like plans to change and unexpected, or what did you say earlier? Like pivoting. The kind of pivoting you have to do during travel can be really challenging for certain kids.
Yeah, and that activity is really based on the concept of like storyboarding, the idea of really looking and being able to read what you're going to be doing as a storybook, which has been found to really be helpful for kids.
For sure. We often call it a visual schedule with kids on the spectrum, that you want to see what's going to happen. Yep.
Yeah, that whole section, I would say, is setting expectations and then also teaching both the kids and the parents those skills. If we do this and it is helpful, then the parents are going to know, hey, that was really helpful. Maybe we can do it again next time, and sort of offering those tools. And there's a lot of that throughout the book, but I think that first chapter really shines in that light.
Absolutely agree. I was reading it as a parent of a kid on the spectrum and thinking, oh, this is very familiar and helpful. And then the idea that you discuss beforehand, because you can't control everything that happens in your home, but in a routine, you can fake it a little bit better. A lot of times in travel, like, this is what we're doing today, and you go and the museum is closed because it's a national holiday, you didn't know about it, whatever. Things happen much more in traveling. Or the bed, oops, you're going to have to share with your sibling, which is something that people struggle with, and figuring out the pieces. And then how do you work on the pivot skill there? Like, where do you put in? And this also might not go this way.
Amelia was talking earlier about how much we did as a kid. And I think this is kind of why, is because it was so much easier for me to work on those issues out doing stuff than to try to do it at home in our normal routines, right? To introduce the need for flexibility, to introduce all of that stuff, it was just easier to do it. But I think one thing to remember also for parents is the kids are taking everything in, even if they're complaining. One of my favorite stories actually about James, who was such a grumpy traveler. I literally registered the domain Travels with Grumpy and was going to start a whole nother site just about us in these amazing places, and James sitting on the curb, like pouting about it. But one year we came back from summer vacation and I was picking him up from school, and the teacher was like, oh, I heard all about your great trip. And I was like, really? From the child who did nothing.
Sat on the curb.
Right? So we have to remember that we're the parents and we're going to get the brunt of all the complaints, but they're taking everything in, they're growing, and all of that is happening, whether they're acknowledging it or not.
I think I was kicking myself and wishing I had this book. We did an RV trip several summers ago, and I insisted that got everyone a journal, and we're going to journal every day about what we saw on the trip. And it became just this huge fight, basically. My kids hated the journaling, and I was extremely insistent and would not let go of the journaling, that like, you're going to want to look back on this. God knows where those journals are now. It was a huge fight. We'll never see the journals again. But I like the idea of kids making some sort of record of a trip. But I look back and I'm like, journaling was too big a goal at that point. I think my kids were like 6, 8, and 10. And it was a flop, the journaling thing. And I brought a lot of negativity to the trip that probably didn't need to be there. But I like the structure of this, that it allows you to kind of write down your memories without it just being this blank page that they have to fill.
Yeah, and I think we also tried to, again, make it flexible for kids. Some love to draw, some hate to draw. Some love to write, some hate to write. So there's kind of room for people to have that flexibility as well. Open-ended journaling is incredibly challenging for anybody, for adults.
So I've learned.
Nobody wants to look at a blank page and be like, what do I put down?
Yeah,
here?
it didn't go great for me, actually.
But there's a lot of opportunities to turn the book into a memento. They can earn badges for developing their skills and record those moments, and they can use souvenirs to help in the book as well. So we tried to make it something that is fun to participate in, but also becomes a memory keeper.
Yeah, and it's also a book. It's not an app. So let's talk a little bit about the fight against screen time, because there's certainly an ongoing problem. I was just traveling with my own kids and I said, I need a button that said, put your screens down, put your screens down, put your screens down. And it's just that, waiting around in an airport or whatever we're doing that's boring. I have 3 now teenagers, and the second activity stops, the phones go up. And I found myself quite frustrated with it, not because I was like, you're missing the beauty of the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, but because then it's time to move and I've got to get everybody back off screens. And I finally said, put them away. But the fight against screens is eternal, and it feels for a lot of parents like it's getting worse and more challenging. Amelia, you've grown up as what we call a digital native. So how do you feel about the role of screens and travel?
It's interesting. It's something we talked about right when we were starting to outline this book. And I think the perspective we landed on is this book can pretty much operate without screens. You don't need to have a cell phone on hand, even situations where we've got a couple of little activities that are a little bit math based and we cut things that would have been you need to whip out a calculator. We're trying to make it operate completely screenless for a variety of reasons. But I also think that we wanted to sort of embrace the positive things that technology can offer. So we do have a couple of QR codes where you can go to a Mommy Poppins article with a list of 120 great jokes to tell in the car section. We wanted to say, we understand the reality is that there are screens there with you. So let's not fight with them. Let's try and make a companion piece that maybe can share the time with them a little bit, or maybe outcompete them if I'm being optimistic. But we have to accept the reality and the benefits that screens do bring as another type of memory keeper, as another type of connection, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a smart perspective because screens are here to stay, but figuring out hey, who can look up and tell us all about that animal? We're still having a communal experience, as opposed to, we talk a lot about spaces and places and okay, while we're driving through the canyon, let's all put our phones in the glove compartment because we want to actually look up and see what we're seeing. But there can be times where, let's let the 8-year-old tell us all about this kind of deer we just saw out the window, and maybe the phone comes out. Anna, is that your perspective?
I mean, this could be its own whole...
For sure.
It's such a complicated thing because I think as parents, we're so anxious about our kids' use of technology, but our own use of technology is just as complicated. I mean, actually, in this very moment, my son James and I are in a challenge to see who can not use our cell phone for longer. And I think we're on day 3 now.
I was going to say, what day are you on? I'm fascinated.
It's hard. And I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to lose. It's really, really hard. And I have to acknowledge it's maybe harder for me than for James. And so it's complicated. It's so complicated. It has to do with our relationships with other people, how we're spending our time, our anxiety, doing work. For me, using the phone was incredibly helpful in terms of running this website and being a parent who was present all the time, because the kids could be at the playground and I could be answering emails on my phone, right? That's amazing. Where does that transition into you answering emails at the dinner table? My honest answer is don't even get me started.
We'll have you back on and we'll do a full episode only on screen.
Yes, I will just say that we very consciously made the book an alternative to screens, that you do not need a screen. And it can be an alternative, something to hand the child in lieu of giving them. There's a section about being on an airplane or being on a road trip, right? So those are those problem moments where we justify it. We're just going to be sitting on an airplane anyway, so I might as well just let them watch a movie. This book can replace those moments with something engaging, but I think us olds, we remember when you played cards with your parents or did whatever. And to us, that feels like a more authentic, engaging moment. Is it? I think it is still. But anyway, don't get me started.
A second podcast. Tell us a little bit about what's something from both of you that you had a revelation about, you learned about traveling. Did you have an aha moment?
For me, the revelation was actually working with Amelia on it. And hearing and seeing the perspective that they brought to the book, all of that stuff about bringing in the child's perspective, that's something that frankly, I probably would not have done if I had just done the book on my own. And so I think it adds so much to it. And I'm so grateful that that's there and that we worked on this together. And so there is a lot of that perspective. Yeah.
I think for me, a big moment was I just kept, as we were writing, thinking back to what I would have wanted this book to be as a kid. And I kept having this vision of myself in the backseat. And we had this book that I think was yours, Mom, back when you were younger, of like 300 activities for spunky kids or whatever it was. And that was the book I wanted. That was the moment as a traveler. I would literally sit in the backseat of the car and like dog ear pages. I was like, oh, I'm totally going to learn how to press flowers later, or, there are little riddles. And one thing I loved about that experience was that it, first of all, was collaborative. It was like I could then tell my brother the knock knock joke or play the game with my family, but also that wasn't the type of book where it was just sit down and have to journal now, or hey, we're going to shove down your throat that this is like, don't be on your screen. Here's something to distract you. It was something that really was fun and full of different types of activities. And that was what I tried to bring to this, was let's have something that has all different opportunities and activities and types of prompts and different structures to be engaging in all the different moments.
It's there. I will say, I love how much this book is from the child's perspective. I think it's so smart, so well done. I was kicking myself reading it and being like, oh, I wish I had this. It would have helped me so much, and still will as I travel with my kids. So tell us where we can find more of your work. The book is available everywhere. We will link to it in our bookshop. And tell us where else our audience can find you.
Yeah, so the book is also linked on the site, mommypoppins.com. We're also, if you're in the New York area, on May 31st, we're doing a travel festival for families in Brooklyn, and we will be there, and we're actually going to bring an activity from the book to life there and have a lot of really fun travel-centered activities to do at the event.
Fantastic. And Amelia, do you have anywhere that you want to throw to?
Yeah, you can find me at Eigerman Writes. That's EIGERMANWRITES on X and on Instagram.
Awesome. We will link to those places because I know you're busy doing laundry or driving your car right now. Don't have to write it down. We will link to all of those. And this was so much fun. So much fun talking to a mother and daughter. It was awesome. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tires matter. They're the only part of your vehicle that touches the road. Tread confidently with new tires from Tire Rack. Whether you're looking for expert recommendations or know exactly what you want, Tire Rack makes it easy. Fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection, and convenient installation options. Go to TireRack.com to see tire test results, tire ratings, and consumer reviews, and be sure to check out all the special offers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.